వరున్నరుతలమురైక్య ఇవిడవాసం సాధ్యము మలినమాయ జలాశయం అది మలినమాయురభూమియం మలినమాయ జలాశయం అది మలినమాయురభూమియం.
आदिवासी को ये रे हमको आदिवासी को ये हम बड़ा मेरे नारा हम आदिवासी हम बड़ा मेरे नारा हम आदिवासी आदिवासी को ये रे हमको आदिवासी को ये हम बड़ा मेरे नारा हम आदिवासी.
Hello everyone. Today's dialogue holds a special meaning to me. I've invited environmentalist, activist Medha Patkar to a dialogue about the state of the world today. Medha has been weaving a fabric of grassroots level movements. Medha is one of the key pillars of National Alliance of People's Movements in India. She's known for mobilizing tribal population affected by the big dam on Narmada River. 3 decades of struggle has brought some justice and a lot of injustice to the people who are being displaced from their native land. If there is injustice, Medha Patkar is there fighting against it. Be it injustice against tribals, injustice against labor, farmers, women, slum dwellers. Medha believes in an alternate model of governance where she's inspired by Gandhi's vision of non-violence and satyagraha, mobilizing people in search of truth. So I'm going to talk to Medha about her journey, about her vision, about her hope. For anyone who wants to find meaning beyond current atmosphere of strife, violence, exploitation, Medha provides her own version of an alternate world, an alternate future, where caring and sharing, peace and harmony, and compassion are the pillars on the future will stand. So over to Medha. So namaste, Medha.
నమస్తే. జిందాబాద్.
Zindabad. I want to give you a background of why I'm speaking to you. You know, this is Nana's birth centenary year. And I decided that instead of just celebrating one person, that is not the culture in which I grew up. I grew up in the culture of a movement, in a culture of idealism. And there was no one person that contributed to it. There was a whole generation that was born out of freedom struggle, out of Gandhiji's teachings. And of course, the energy that was brought by all the leaders of freedom struggle and workers. And I think if I have to celebrate Nana's birth centenary, I have to celebrate all of their work. That is one thing I learned from him. And that is one thing I've learned from him is that leader is nothing without karyakartas. So this whole effort is to bring to the attention of younger generation that no matter what they see in TV or radio or in mainstream media, India is still alive at grassroots level with the same ideals, same ideas, same kind of energy that was started during our freedom struggle. So our legacy of the imagination that our forefathers dreamt of is being carried forward by many people in every field. And you, in my opinion, epitomize that legacy. So I'm I'm talking to you about the dreams we inherited, the actions that are still active, and about the lies that are being dished out to people through media. But I still have hope when I see your work, NAPM's work, and the people I have been talking to, many of them are inspired by your work. So I just want to bring to the attention of future generation that India is not what you see in media, but India is something that people at the lowest level of our society hold dear to their heart. The freedom is not what we achieved on 15th August 1947. Freedom is what we are still have to reach. Only when the last man in the ladder gets that freedom can we claim ourselves to be a superpower.
Yes.
So with that background, I want to start with a question. I have seen you since I was a child, but can you, for our audience, give a little view of your journey of how did you embrace the dreams, the ideals, ideology, and the activism that you are known for?
Thank you, Debhav. It's a great vision that you are carrying and getting reflected into these dialogues. And that is the inheritance of Madhu Dandavteji, your and our Nana. And it's true that today we need some sources of inspiration. So whosoever is working wherever, at not grassroots, I would call it mass roots level, that really gives us inspiration and a hope. Because otherwise there is so much that can really disturb us, that really affects our heart and our brain, that really makes us very pessimistic. But there is still optimism, because our ideals are no doubt far away, but the path to reach to those is something that we know about. And hence we keep walking, whether we fall in between, whether we have to climb the hills and mountain ranges and so on. But we really, cross the rivers and the seas also. It is, something to be remembered that like Madhu Dandavteji, my father, who was himself a freedom fighter, and since he came out of jail at the age of 16, he was working with the laborers as a trade unionist. And he and Madhu Dandavteji was so close to each other. They belonged to the same political party, Praja Samajwadi. But their socialist ideals were reflected in every dialogue of theirs. My father, whenever he used to talk to me also, whether related to some elocution competition or any action within the family, he would always be very strict about, being very clear about the ideals. And ideals were of equity and justice. While working with the working class, I saw him, how he would behave with the, some agent or representative of the corporate that would come with the box of sweets on the Diwali day, when the bonus was refused to the workers working with the same company. And then he would just throw away that box. And my mother would also feel shaken. How can you throw away? It's food after all, and you cannot do this. He said, no, you won't understand, how these corporates are. So that kind of approach, pro-workers, pro-laborers, and against those who were really exploiting them, was something which was conveyed to me. My mother and father had an intercaste marriage, and they came from the background of Rashtra Seva Dal. So that itself was an action against casteism. And in every small little gesture, they would always convey to us that there is to be no discrimination on the basis of caste or religion. Even if some hawker comes to the doorstep, and I would say singularly, that, "Hey, tula kai pahiye? Tumko kya chahiye?" So my mother would get very upset. How can you say A? You have to call her Mausi, or Chachi, not like this. So, that kind of orientation they gave us. They also helped me and my colleagues to understand how we should live our life, not for ourselves, but for others. So, running a Sani Guruji Kathamala every Sunday, going on the weekend to the slum areas, everything was accepted by them. And working till late night and then coming home, even during the primary school days, was accepted, because they always felt that you have to be courageous and you have to be confident. So I think the ideals of going beyond all kinds of discrimination on one hand and rising above one's own life is something that my parents gave me. But through the various even competitions, elocution, debates, I could really learn more about the vision that was the socialist vision, more or less. Because Gandhi was socialist, Ambedkar was also socialist, I think Marx was also socialist. So bringing them together, like what Nana Dandavteji did, in his writings, that was very important. But during those days, I would go and attend the meetings on the Shivaji Park, addressed by Barrister Nath Pai. And we would always have the guests who were great socialists, Bhau Ranadeji, for example, whose lifestyle only would influence a lot of simplicity, self-reliance, even at the age of 80s and so on. Even the workshops and work camps of Rashtra Seva Dal, where we would work with the farmers, plow the field, dig the wells, all of that, along with the, prabodhan, जिसको अपन बौद्धिक बोलते हैं. So Rajnath Thatte ji would talk about one issue, and Pannalal Surana ji would give us the orientation to socialism and Shrama Pratishtha, the dignity of labor, and so on. So a varied kind of aspects of life, of oneself and of society, and also about the state, democracy, everything was conveyed to us through these kinds of activities. And I think that really kept on influencing us, apart from participating in elocution debates, for which one had to read a lot, whether it was Simla Agreement, whether it was anything else happening. Participating would really give us a chance to learn about it much more, and then also express it. So that was something that made us conscious about the need to fight for transformation,
There's one more element I see in you as an influence. I see a lot of influence of Sani Guruji
Yes.
in terms of Karuna and Kana. I think, I believe any amount of social transformation or revolution cannot be sustained without compassion. And that leads me to the importance of how have you understood the role of satyagraha and non-violence in your activism?
Yes, Sani Guruji, who was also a follower of Gandhism in one hand, but he took it much further and really incorporated it in every action plan of his, whether it was the Dalits' entry into temples or working with the laborers. Sani Guruji had the broad vision about the transforming the society with compassion and passion both. And I agree with you. When we studied the professional social work also, I was very fascinated with the principle of emotional involvement and commitment. Otherwise, many people would feel that, oh, professional social work would not require to bring in emotions. But without emotional commitment and without that kind of passion and compassion, as you said, without empathizing with those who are disadvantaged, who are deprived, who are destitutionalized, who are excluded and peripheralized, marginalized. We cannot really, gain strength and courage to really work beyond one's own life. And I think that's why Sani Guruji is my ideal. In this office of ours, you would find his photographs pasted at 2-3 places inside my room also. So after all, why did he commit suicide is something which always comes to my mind, because he was very much shaken with the wrong path that the state and the society was taking, and he couldn't bear it. Now, in today's situation, it was that much disheartening, atmosphere around us. Not just climate, which is ecological, but social, political, and economic climate also is such that it needs to be changed if we have to feel optimistic and peaceful at our heart, and hope we carry in changing this whole world. So I think we certainly take inspiration from all of them. Now, whether it is Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh or Gandhi, we don't have to bring in the conflict between them. Whether it was Gandhiji and Ambedkar, we need to draw from everyone that they have contributed and take our own ideological framework to really view the future of this country and the world.
To your point, I would give it a metaphor of a fabric. Each of these ideas that Gandhi, Bhagat Singh, Subhash Chandra Bose, Ambedkar, Jyotiba
Mahatma
Phule,
Phule.
Savitribai Phule, all of them brought has brings a different color to our fabric. And the truth is we have to preserve that fabric. And not take one thread does not represent the entire fabric of the society.
Yes, yes.
So in that perspective, I do have a question. What is your interpretation that Gandhiji and Buddha, that's another person I want to bring into conversation, have inspired the whole world? What is so special about them that their ideas did not get limited to India alone, but it spread all over the world and have inspired both moral and political revolutions around the world?
It was their humanitarian value framework, which cannot be limited to any community or even a nation state. They were for humane world. And whether it was Buddha or Kabir or Mahatma Gandhi, they wanted war-free and free of all kinds of discrimination. And that kind of society they visualized, and they were confident about to have that path and that manzil. So I think that is what was attractive to every single country that was passing through various kinds of challenges, whether it was the challenge of industrialization, which turned into crony capitalism or even criminal capitalism, I would say. They had the alternative way of life. So it was not just the economics or politics that their vision was, roaming around. They had the whole view of life and lifestyle. And that's why it was, attracted, and it also was accepted by many, many societies beyond the nation states. Today, in the present situation, when it is the warmongering that is going on, and our heart breaks to see how the Israel is attacking Gaza Patti, and how even fake videos about Hamas attacks are getting viral. And we know how the Palestinians' land was taken away piece by piece from 1948 onwards. We saw the war against Ukraine and so on. And when this kind of violence is really threatening the life per se, the violence and truth, these are the values of Mahatma Gandhi's communication, and life itself was his darshan, as he said himself. That is something that gives us a hope, and we can resort to that in order to challenge the present kind of violent tactics of the politicians and the rulers. Now, in such situation, that path of satyagraha, which you mentioned, becomes a must. So, what kind of action anyone who believes in non-violence would take up? That has to be the action in different forms. But it's not just the sit-in or fasting. It is the pledge for truth that needs to be reflected into multiple front and multiple foral actions. That was Gandhi's not just idea, but practice. And that influenced everyone, right from Dandi Yatra to his reaching out to Noakhali. This is the kind of actions that are required today. On one hand, we have to work with the people who are hungry, who are displaced, who are deprived, who are exploited, with the Dalits, with adivasis, not only to save nature and oxygen for us and our life, but for saving the earth and the humanity at large and all living beings to save. But beyond that, we have to also challenge whatever is happening that is wrong, because with not just caste, but religious fundamentalism that is really catching hold of people, their visions, their lives, that is really, bypassing the real issues, real problems, and real demands. And what we want to achieve is equity and justice, that no one should be hungry and no one should be thirsty and no one should be, unemployed, and the natural resource ecosystem should not be destroyed. If that is our vision, then certainly we have to really challenge everything, changing laws, changing the character of democracy, bringing in fascist kind of approach into politics, and mesmerizing various kind of sub-communities and sections of populations who need to fight for their fundamental and basic rights, taking them away from that and getting them entangled into the casteism and communalism. So that we have to challenge simultaneously when we work for reconstruction and regaining the basic need fulfillment for every citizen in the country or the world. So these kinds of multiple front approach is something which we have, learned from the freedom movement.
So I have one question, which I am struggling with, is that the environment in which I grew up, in the environment in which you have activated the grassroots level people, it's all about collective action. How important do you think is personal enlightenment and discovering, again, I'm going to use the word, the compassion, the caring, the sharing kind of a harmony, and I would dare to say spiritual kind of a cleansing in the wake of all the violence that is being unleashed on us through media and politics and everything, how important it is while actually mobilizing people for action.
Without mass base and mass strength, I don't think we can bring in the basic transformation which we are referring to. The Sampurna Kranti of Jai Prakash Narayanji's vision, or even Sapta Kranti or Ram Manohar Lohiya's vision, was also to be attained through the mass movement. And movement really is not a program, but it is a continuous series of programs. But that programmatic strategy also has to be focusing on the mobilization of masses, awakening of masses, and activating masses. And that cannot be like a political party does, bringing in lakhs of people by sending trucks and vehicles to get them for one day and spend crores of rupees on that. While Narendra Damodar Das Modi ji celebrated the Birsa Munda Jayanti, he spent 30 crores on one day function that occurred in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Now, that is not the real mass movement, or the instigating people to go to the Babri Masjid and demolish it in Ayodhya, which has been the bhumi of Sarva Dharma Samabhav, a real secular land where Nawabs had donated lands for their temples, and Muslim weavers bring that Ram Naam ke gamche, and their flowers really are used for the temples. But that all thing was forgotten, and many people in large number were excited when they were instigated to really attack the masjid. Now, that kind of thing is not real mass movement. The movement really has to have an ideological framework, and that only helps them continue with the perseverance and patience, without which we cannot cover the path and traverse all the barriers and challenges to reach the manzil, the goal. So in our Narmada movement, for example, if we had not mobilized adivasis in the hilly and mountain ranges in Satpuras and Vindhyas to begin with, but then also linking them with the people in the plains, with the common problem that they were facing, which was of displacement. But through the eyes of the displaced people, raising all the issues related to dam as a symbol of development, and then challenging the development paradigm. So apart from mobilizing masses, we have to really weave the broader vision and the ideological framework and concrete goals as well. That's why while challenging one project or one corporate, we move, and we have to move towards the position clearly to be taken against corporatization or centralization and exploitation that is incorporated into the present development paradigm. So I think without mass base, so I don't think, because the electoral politics that is considered as the real democracy is not real democracy anymore. Real demos, the population, are not having accountability and transparency experienced in the so-called democratic fora and the processes of bringing in new laws and changing laws. In 3 minutes, any law in favor of the working class or favor of adivasis, in favor of conserving forest, can be changed in the present parliamentary situation in India. So that electoral politics now is proving to have a very limited role in bringing in the basic transformation that we have in our vision. So we have to really take the real support of the Constitution, not just keeping hand on the Constitution and taking an oath and then getting disappeared into one's own luxury and world. So I think that constitutional values to be saved, we need to really move people, because if they are involved into these kinds of movemental actions, then only they can be saved and protected from the fundamentalist actions and instigations. Otherwise, they forget that.
I have one question here. One question. So are you saying that democracy has failed, or are you saying and democracy has failed and we need to find an alternate method of governance? Or are you saying we need to mobilize people better to make democracy work?
Democracy has not failed. Democracy is an ideal anyway, but the present fora and processes are absolutely distorted. And that is because the politics has become valueless. And there is no politics which is moneyless. So the politics that is really, gaining all the power through the electoral bonds, through, distributing goods and, really winning the vote banks through caste and religious fundamentalism. That kind of politics cannot really be real democratic politics. So politics is not really limited to elections. People's politics is something that we really have in our hearts. And that politics real, as you rightly said, alternative uh, structures and processes of governance. And that is exactly what Mahatma Gandhi ji had talked about and given a full picture. And it was to an extent taken up by Vinoba ji, who came down to earth through the Bhudan and Gramdan kind of movement. So Gram Swaraj, which is really community-oriented economy that would be based on not just equity and justice, but also self-reliance, and considering the citizens at that community level to be the trustees of the natural resources. Today, all that trusteeship, idea of trusteeship is forgotten. And either the society looks forward only to the state with the big S, the rulers, to take care of everything. And the rulers really use those resources with commodification and marketization and corporatization. And that is why we are not able to save either the democratic decision-making process or the truly sustainable and just development planning process. And that's why we need to really have basic transformation. And that's what Mahatma Gandhi ji was for. And hence he remained outside of the electoral politics. Although his ideas are very much incorporated and reflected into the constitution that came into existence as a result of great contribution by Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Rajendra Prasad Babu, and that whole constitutional forefathers. But the Gandhi's idea of Grama Swarajya is reflected into directive principles, but those are not justiciable. So that those three alphabets need to be removed from the constitution. Otherwise, we have had so many amendments, but still the real crux of the constitution is not held on to by either the society or the state. And that is why we need to really not just give slogans, Samvidhan, Amar Rahe, but we really work out and chalk out a fully alternative path with alternative decentralized democratic forum, alternative choice of technologies in every sector, water, energy, education, health, and so on. And we also need to have the overall alternative, humanitarian approach towards not just saving our own country, but saving the earth from the climate change and its impacts, and also from the wars, which are a result of the criminal capitalism, nothing else.
Thank you.
I think
I have one question. One question I have, which is specific to one moment in your life. You did make a decision to run for Lok Sabha election. So at that time, I'm not talking about why, what, whatever. I just want to focus on what was your imagination that you could do in Parliament beyond what you have been doing as an activist. And this is just a very focused question, not anything else. I'm not talking about politics. I'm just talking about what was your imagination.
You see, it was the special situation in which the Modi government was already seen as running towards religious fundamentalism, communalism, casteism, and so on, and corporatization. And in that context, everyone was visualizing the same thing that is happening today, that more and more loss of freedom will be experienced, and that would really kill democracy and kill the constitutional values as well. And hence, we who were not for entering into electoral politics, we were convinced by people like Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav, no one else. But they also later on realized, and in between they were also out of that. and then again they are taking an in between path as they did in the Karnataka elections, and also are carrying forward in the 2024 towards 2024 elections. But when we experienced that, uh, when we thought that people would really respond to that kind of alternative model in our mind, that vision which we would be able to convey, and they would really vote for us. Now, I selected the constituency where I had worked for years with these slum people, but I never imagined how their vote banks would be totally changed. I got more votes from the middle class than from the slum dwellers with whom I had worked. And that was because of distribution of money and liquor and everything during last few nights. And when the Muslim organizations, not one but 100, together had declared their open support to my candidature, I realized that they also changed their position the last moment when they felt insecure with the rulers at the center who were likely to gain power again. So all these things really, has not confused me, but has further clarified my thoughts. And I remember how Mrunaltai Gore, a socialist who was very much in the electoral politics, but she said clearly that I agree with you, Medha, that you have to be in the non-electoral politics. तो ये संसद बाह्य राजनीति, जिसके बाद तो बहुत सोशलिस्ट कैटेगरी ऑफ एक्टिविस्ट्स में होती थी, but that was not fully acceptable to the real socialist leaders. They always felt that without electoral politics, one cannot change the society or the nation state. But I think that without people's movement, we cannot bring in transformation. That doesn't mean that we consider electoral politics as untouchable. But I know that going inside the parliament or assembly also, you don't even get the truthful answers to your questions. And if you get a false answer, you have to wait for the next session to bring in the breach of privilege, motion. But today, that if you really challenge basically anything that the power holders are taking decision on, you would be out of not politics, but out of that parliament or assembly. So these kinds of things really are now convincing people like me that we have to protect our space. And also various political parties are taking somewhat similar positions with respect to the economics, with respect to corporatism and so on, whenever and wherever they are in power. So I think if you have a vision which is much different from the present economic and political and social climate, you have to have a special space protected with mass base of your own. And
Right.
that's why it is elaborately expressed through the farmers' movement that took place, our Sanyukta Kisan Morcha, for 13 months, in which various political party fronts of farmers were also involved and very, very active and contributing. But still, they were not bringing in the parties and the political leaders on the dais of farmers' movement. Now, why was this happening? Because that special space was necessary.
So this just to, I don't know whether it supports your argument or changes, but I have a question. I have watched trade union movement from which you were born also. I have seen Rashtra Seva Dal movement. I have seen women's movement closely. Why does, I would specifically take trade union movement, why doesn't active membership of trade union movement translate into the same people who are in it voting in a parliamentary system in the same ideological direction as their leaders who have led their movement have opted for? I've found that even George or Datta Samant or whoever, they did not they were not able to get all their followers in the movement vote according to their political beliefs.
You see, my father, पिताजी जो ट्रेड यूनियन में ही थे, and continuously I used to watch his meetings with the workers, the laborers, in a small house that we had, with one room and kitchen. So I used to sit in one corner and study, but I would hold the book like this and watch their meetings. And that gave me a lot of spirit and lot of understanding of how the working class people behave. And sometimes when father would get angry with them about their selfish attitudes and not really showing, perseverance in the struggles, I would realize how the working class character also has been changing. And this is the intervention or interference into life by money and market. And the mechanisms related to those are affecting or having impact upon every section of our population, not only the elite section, but also the Dalits and Adivasis, So although because they have the basic problems and issues such as right to life, right to livelihood, right to the natural ecosystem, which is their life support, all of that they have to take forward. So they are fighting in Orissa, they are fighting in Kerala, they are fighting in Assam, they are fighting in Mumbai through our urban slum dwellers movement, Ghar Bachao, Ghar Banao Andolan, and in Narmada Valley after 38 years of struggle. We have to continue because this year, though, thousands of acres of land is affected, thousands of houses got submerged because of the game played by the government, changing the levels. So when such down-to-earth challenges are there, all the workers, laborers, farmers, all of them to be called as Shramik, they have to come to the streets, no doubt about it. But the trade unions are considered by many, especially in the organized sector, as the mechanism or the forum through which they will get their own benefits. So I remember the last message that my father gave to me was, please don't waste your lifetime in working with the organized sector. You work with the so-called unorganized sector. But I don't use the word unorganized because they are more organized. Our women who are the farm laborers, our women who are the fish workers, our cattle grazers, our Adivasis in the hilly communities, and Dalits on the periphery of every community. All of them really are to be at the forefront. And when they are at the forefront, there is no doubt that the trade unions approach gets changed. Now, we are a trade union also. Our Shramik Janta Sangh is fighting a battle for last 6 years with the mill workers. Now, they can be considered as organized sector. But while fighting the battle against Kumar Mangalam Birla, realizing how different he is from the Ghanashyam Das Birla's approach, and how these millionaires and billionaires are really using the hire and fire methodology to gain more profit. And their profit over people, profit over nature is the motto and approach, which we have to challenge. So even through trade unions, when we really give the basic perspective and ideology to the workers, there is difference that we see. 92% of the workers denied accepting VRS, cash, which would otherwise lure many workers. And they said, no, we will fight for employment. And we are still fighting the legal and mass battle for employment. So there are these kinds of movements still going on within the trade union sector. But otherwise, because the trade unions are also, motivated to get more and more of monetary benefits or the perks, for the workers, there is that change that is seen over years. The trade unions which got formed and started working immediately after the freedom movement had a very different approach. But now I see there is again a turnover, because those workers are also realizing that when 29 of the national labor laws are getting repealed out of 44, and 4 codes, 4 weak laws that are imposed are not going to even allow or facilitate trade unionism itself. They are not going to really support the occupational safety or even minimum wages, but rather the contract labor work is promoted, which leads to extreme exploitation of the large working class, and unemployment, underemployment, all of that, which is not faced only during pandemic, but it is faced due to the criminal capitalism, as I said, beyond crony capitalism, and also extremely vulgar inequity that is faced by the society. And that economics is promoted openly through the various international financial institutions, through the global capital funding and the G20-like forum, where the agreements are made without any transparency and accountability to the people at large. How can those forums be considered as democratic and national sovereign forums? So it is very necessary that trade unions also now must take a clear position. In the public sector, units are getting sold out, and the whole country is in a way put on sale. So it is not just Jal, Jangal, Zameen, land, water, forest, but it is also the public sector units. And claiming that all these changes would bring in more employment through the special economic zones like smart city-like projects, that is failed. And people are more and more realizing this. And that's why trade unions are also now joining hands with our farmers movement. And this farmers and laborers unity can really and could have, and even now can, bring in a basic change to a very, very vast national movement, which would be another freedom movement, as we can visualize. It has just begun. That process has just started, and we hope it will go further within next 1 year, which is a challenging year.
So this is a perfect time to ask my next question. Do you see anywhere in the world, in any community or in a nation, there is a movement towards the kind of society you are imagining? Has anybody been successful in fighting this violence, crony capitalism, all of these things, and actually create an alternate way of living in the society?
I think in every country, there is a minority, so-called, that is challenging this, not necessarily a majority. Now, whether it is in Ireland, whether it is in Brazil and the Latin American, South American countries, or even within USA, when they challenge, when Modi visits USA and so on. And in India also the same thing is happening. Within Pakistan also, and within Bangladesh also. But I think that that minority sometimes makes a difference. It saves some space. It saves some respect for values which are to be promoted. But you cannot think of any country where all of these wrongs are challenged with such strong mass strength that we can immediately hope that everything will be changed within our lifetime. I at least am not that optimistic, but we still have a hope that this so-called minority will really bring in a strong mass base with it, when more and more of negative impacts are faced by the people at large. Now, there is this inequity which is faced when the hunger index is giving 111th rank for India. Indian government only compares it with Pakistan. how ridiculous it is. Not with one's own, failures in bringing in equity and feeding everyone so that no one would be hungry.
Right.
And we know that when these kinds of situations are faced more and more, not just corona, but various viruses are coming in. The worst of the virus is of corporatism that is entering into every sector, and that is eating away the basic and fundamental rights of the people. And so, as many people face death, they realized how important it is to save ecology, to save oxygen, and for oxygen, the green cover over earth. When they faced unemployment, they realized that it's not only the big industries and industrialization, urbanization equal to development that can really show the real path. When Article 43 in the Constitution talks about cottage industries mainly, and Article 39 says that a handful of people should not have the wealth of the country concentrated into their hands. And that should be the real economic development. But in order to achieve that, more and more people must understand and realize how is it that Gautam Adani earns 1,600 crores per day and our farm laborers do not even get 300, and hence they are becoming migrant laborers facing hell. So it is necessary to really analyze and create awareness. And when that will be created, suddenly people will rise up.
So I have one question. A very ground level Adivasi who has participated in your movement, in their movement, not your movement, they have grown up with both action and prabodhan. A child born in that family, what kind of a future is she dreaming? What kind of a dream are you helping them grow in their?
See, through our Jivan Shalas, which came up because the government schools were only run on paper and there was no literacy in those Narmada Valley villages in Maharashtra. And then we started those, and then we moved to the Madhya Pradesh hilly areas also. And through that, when 6,000 youths have been now open in the society, many athletes having won number of gold medals, many have become teachers in our own Jivan Shalas, many have become the social activists full time with us or with some organization, and many have become the government servants also. But in that situation, we still know that there are also many youths not only coming out of our Jivan Shalas, but coming out of the government schools and private schools also, not from the hilly areas. There is no alternative to our Jivan Shalas. But otherwise, the Adivasi youths who really get education from the other kinds of schools with the not just government curriculum, but all the messages and through programs, whatever are the values imbibed into them, they become more careerist than socialists. So it is necessary really to build a cadre very, very consciously and help them to understand that when they are Adivasis, the original inhabitants, they are the ones who must feel committed to saving the natural resource base. They will save the natural resource base not only for Adivasis, but human life and humanity as a whole, as the scientists are really warning the whole community on the earth. It is also necessary that they should be kept away from this caste and religion-based fundamentalism and communalism. And then the political parties bring those forces and impacts onto their lives and take them into the Kavod Yatras and various religious ceremonies instead of going into rallies for right to food, right to livelihood, right to forest, and so on. It is necessary really to save them from that, for which I think just I remember that celebrating Nana's, the Dandateji's this centenary, birth centenary, Arun Kumar Srivastav has taken up a task and with very much commitment and conducted 12 youth camps in 12 colleges in just one district of Uttar Pradesh. Now, Uttar
In
Pradesh is
Gorakhpur.
such a, yes, in Gorakhpur. And that kind of approach is necessary. When the Rashtra Sevadal Shibirs, youth camps, work camps, really helped us to realize what should be the goals and vision of our life. I think these kinds of youth camps also can really take the youths on the right path and make them full-time activists. Now,
Right.
all the children cannot otherwise easily be taken up onto our path. But when the youths come forward as volunteers from wherever, we feel hopeful, we feel optimistic. Even in Narmada Valley, when the youths from the various families who are already affected, displaced, but they are working not only for their family, but for the larger, society that is affected at least. It is necessary to take them beyond that also towards the wider ideals and vision. Then we become the Andolan Jivi. So I think to make youths Andolan Jivi, so that Andolan is a part of their life, their Jivan, and they know that living life and livelihood cannot be saved without Andolan, then I think we will feel hopeful that we can achieve something to the next generation. And there is so much of possibility of this, but we are also falling short of the requirement. That's how I feel. Ways
So
and means, not just social media, but various, what is called as online is really offline. The really coming to the streets is online. So bringing them online, even if they drop out of the schools, colleges, they should drop into their own society and then save adivasis' rights, which are otherwise snatched away by the corporates like Vedanta and Adani and Enron and so on. So I think when I realized that when they get this experience, direct experience, by participating in the movement, they also feel inspired. Not 100%. Even if 20 or 10 out of 100 come up with that kind of spirit, nothing like that.
So I still have one. I'm going to pursue one more question. Every human, whether she is living in city or village or anywhere, when she sits outside, looks at the sky, looks at the horizon, begins to start dreaming about the future life. Yeah. Some people want to travel. Some people want to become richer. Some people want to contribute to the society, but they're dreaming of what is beyond horizon for them. What do you want the next 3 generation to dream of? If not of joining a corporation and taking up a lucrative job, what else can they dream of?
I wish they would dream of, remaining at the grassroots and mass roots. I wish that the next generation really understands what are the limits of this marketized and so-called industrialized society. We are not against industrialization, but what kind of industrialization? And that will really make life sustainable so that we will leave something behind for the next generation. Water in the river unpolluted, groundwater, accessible groundwater level, air unpolluted, and also source of livelihood protected forever. Now, all of that and peace through non-violent kind of society, all of that, if they really dream of, and if they feel that This vulgar inequity needs to be really challenged. And we need equity, without which there can be no justice. Because today, when our migrant laborers faced hell during pandemic and we saw them walking for 1700 to 2000 kilometers, our hearts were breaking. And we had to get to fasting on the border of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. But just looking at them on the screens and hoping that they would get some vehicle and the situation would change will not really be enough. So we want the next generation to really come down to earth, not just use WhatsApp to see what's up, but to see what's down, and also feel courageous to stand by when there is rape and attack on women in Manipur. Also get into the depth and understand how the corporates agreements on the mineral khajana in Manipur has led to this violence. And what is it that is making Israel attack Gaza Patti? And what was the real reason of the political kind of nitty-gritty behind the war against Ukraine? If they feel that they have various ways and means in their hands, they should get into this kind of search and research and analyze the situation, learn, and also work towards changing the situation, for which we want the youths to give at least 1 year of their life immediately after their education to the people's movements, people's organizations, without which they cannot, just by studying and doing documentation and filming situations special, can be really the change agents. So in order that they become change agents, they must come forward and join the people and be a part of that section of population, whichever they choose, in whichever sector, where they can bring in concrete change. And it's not only through struggle, but struggle and reconstruction both. Because when we challenge certain technology, when we challenge certain economy, we have to give the alternatives in power generation, in water management, and in the employment generation also. And there is so much around us and in front of us that we can adopt. But that will need them to really design their own lifestyle. If they only are for career and having the corporate packages of lakhs of rupees per month, then they cannot do this. And they may have to really leave their families behind and also take the courage to step out. But wherever it is possible and their family is self-sustained, there at least the youths must come forward and take it up. It was in the 1970s when many urban youths had taken to rural work and activism. The same thing needs to happen today. And even in the urban cities, work with the slums, which are facing eviction, which is vulgarly brutal. And hence, when our slum dwellers fight the battles against builders, we have the alternative way to provide housing for everyone. It is not just the promise by our great Prime Minister that everyone would get a house by 2022 that will really matter. Even work with farmers. When they are not getting the value for the produce which comes out of the natural and human resources, and hence at least 30 to 50 farmers are committing suicide every day. How can the youth who keep reading everything on Google, on WhatsApp, and realizing what is happening, but not jumping into the battleground, which is to be non-violent, which is to be satyagrahi, then that is wrong. So we really appeal through online messages, through communications, interactions to all the youths to be real socialists. They may be called urban nakshals like we are called. If they challenge the present system, if they challenge the present economy, if they challenge the global capital and capitalism, but they must be ready to persevere beyond all these kinds of false accusations and allegations and expose the reality. And that is possible. In Narmada now, everything is exposed. The Sardar Sarovar Dam can be considered as a total failure after having spent, instead of 4,200 crores, 90,000 crores. And although we could get 50,000 families rehabilitated through the continuous struggle over 38 years, the new challenges have come up before us. So it's an unending battle, and many battles can be converted into a war for bringing in the total transformation. But that war has to be totally truth-based, non-violent, and mass-based. That's what our vision is, which we would like to convey to the youths. And if they really join any movement like ours, they are welcome.
That is wonderful. I have last question before we end this. Growing up in the socialist fraternity, I have seen revolutionary spirit of different intensities. One of the persons that has really intrigued and inspired me was Madhu Limaye. He was very rational, very militant in his thoughts. But what really intrigued me was his passion was classical music. When he and Nana got together, they loved attending classical music concerts. I don't know if you knew that side of him.
Yes, I know.
And he would get completely, he would get lost in music. So my question to you is, from the human side, just like music was to Madhu Limaye, what brings you joy and relaxation?
For me, it is a music of different kind. The songs that either I myself have written or others have given to us, those really give great inspiration and pleasure. And helps many times overnight also, the songs keep coming to my mind if I have, uttered those just in the evening. But that is very essential. We have a cassette of songs sung by one of our Mil Mazdoor, and with my commentary. And that kind of, a song, which is about the farmer's situation, which is about the laborer, Main Mazdoor, Ramdhari Se Din Karji Ka, which is challenging the nafrat by appealing to Ishwar and Allah, and so on. Or एक जागरण के सॉन्ग, ये सबसे बहुत ही स्पिरिट मिलता है. एंड ऐसा रिलैक्सेशन नहीं होता है, बट रिजुविनेशन होता है अवर ओन स्पिरिट का. एंड देन उससे अपन थोड़ा सा अलग दुनिया में जाते हैं, ऑप्टिमिज्म भी आता है. एंड दैट्स व्हाट आई फील इज अ रियल म्यूजिक. होली में, ड्यूरिंग द होली फेस्टिवल, व्हेन वी डांस होल नाइट around the dhols, drums beaten up by the adivasis, 80 to 100 coming on that night, and thousands dancing. At this age, I can't dance beyond 1 hour or so, but still, that also gives you a different kind of relaxation and spirit. So it is not only recreation through the tourist kind of tourism projects, but this kind of, moving through the various societal sections and learning through the cultures. But poetry is my love. And hence you also are having the poetic attitude and spirit. And I think that really helps you to bring out whatever is your inside feeling, and that gives you some kind of ability to think beyond the micro level engagements, and which really, entangle you beyond limits.
We end this dialogue with you. If you remember any of your poems, speaking that out, either speak or sing, whatever.
Yeah. Instead of poems, I think a song.
Okay.
There are many songs, but 2 songs I will just say a few words. because one is necessary in the present situation where displacement from the sources of livelihood, life support is has become the basic focus and support of the present kind of capitalist economy. So song that questioned that is one thing which I had written when 35,000 people had gathered in Harsud in Narmada Valley with Baba Amte, Shabana Azmi, Swami Agnivesh, Sundarlal Bahuguna, Thakur Das Ji Bang and others. तो वो पहले देश हित के नाम पर इंसान लाखों उजड़ेंगे, ऐसी आजादी पे बोलो गर्व क्या कर पाएंगे। मुट्ठी भरे लुटते चले, लाखों करोड़ों हाथ फैले, ऐसे बंटवारे जहां भी न्याय ही कहलाएंगे, ऐसी आजादी पे बोलो गर्व क्या कर पाएंगे। परदेश के सपने लिए परदेश के ही पंजे में, विनाश को विकास माने वो फंसे हैं जाल में। सच बरतने वालों पे जब जेल गोली बरसेंगे, तब भी आजादी पे बोलो गर्व क्या कर पाएंगे। ये वो पूरा गीत है। और अभी हमारी रोज की प्रार्थना एक सत्याग्रही प्रार्थना है जो आज जरूरी है, क्योंकि राम एंड रहीम में सब फंसे हुए हैं। एंड इन ऑर्डर टू चैलेंज दैट आई रोट दिस सत्याग्रही प्रार्थना व्हेन आई हर्ड द सर्वोदय प्रार्थना, तू ही राम है तू ही रहीम है, तो इसमें थोड़े हमारे विचार डाले हैं। कहाँ राम है क्या रहीम है, यह प्रकृति जीवन मेरा, मेरा ही जल मेरी नदी, ये जमीन और जंगल मेरा। मैं मानता इंसान को, मैं मानता ईमान को, समता ही मेरा विचार है और स्वावलंबनाचार है। कहाँ राम है क्या रहीम है, यह प्रकृति जीवन मेरा। सहता नहीं अन्याय को, हिंसा लूट विनाश को, मेरा बल उनका भी हो, दुर्बलों का आधार जो। कहाँ राम है क्या रहीम है, मैं कौन हूँ तुम कौन हो, हम तुम मिले जीते रहो, विकास की सही सोच हो, उसमें ही राम रहीम हो। कहाँ राम है क्या रहीम है, यह प्रकृति जीवन मेरा। तो ये अस्मिता के सवालों के सामने अस्तित्व के सवालों को ही महत्व देना चाहिए। ये एक प्रकार का ऐलान, एक प्रकार का क्या बोलते हैं, अपील लोगों तक पहुंचने का, और यूथ, हमारे युवा कार्यकर्ताओं को भी दिल में लगना चाहिए, इसके लिए ये कोशिश होती है।
बहुत बढ़िया। आज तक मेरे लिए प्रार्थना सिर्फ दो ही थी, दोनों साने गुरुजी की प्यारी, देह मंदिर चित्त मंदिर आणि करा तो एकची धर्म। नाउ आई हैव फाउंड अ न्यू प्रार्थना। थँक यू व्हेरी मच मेधा।
नमस्कार।
खूप खूप बरं वाटलं आणि एवढ्या रात्री वेळ काढलास त्याबद्दल थँक्यू।
नाही, इतक्या दुरून इतका गहरा संवाद। रोहिणी ताईंना पण नमस्कार।
जिंदाबाद।